Drew, about being high school football, and we talk a lot of college football. We talk local stuff. Yeah, and it's only fitting that we come to you live this morning from a high school football practice. Now, we will have a special presentation later this morning.
Yes.
And as to the reason why we are here, well, that is because James Clemens is this week's 97.7 ESPN The Zone Bryant Bank Team of the Week. So they arranged a morning practice for us.
Well, we did, or we arranged to be there for them, but we were working around their schedule, and they do it differently, and they get out here early. And they get rolling, and so they're going to have their walkthrough today as they're getting ready to have their second regular season game of the year. And but they're coming off a huge win, going on the road, and overcoming some weather and some adversity too, to win very impressively against the fellow 7A school, Murphy. And Murphy has a lot of tradition in Mobile. The Jets, though, 32-0 winners, so you can't really play any better than that, in my opinion. If you go on the road and you shut somebody out, and then you have to overcome lightning and weather delays, because again there was games that weren't even played until Saturday, and so they were able to get the job done and really represent Madison County and our community very, very well.
And so we are joined bright and early this morning by the head coach of the James Clemens Jets, the first year head coach.
Yeah, well, get used to that, because featured Wade Waldrop a lot. Now we got a new era here. And Chad McGehee, who had done a great job for Josh Nibble, who's one of the best coaches in the state. They got one of the best programs in America, not just in the state of Alabama, at Hoover High School. He was there for 3 years as defensive coordinator, but familiar with North Alabama because previously he was the head coach for a couple years at Elkmont. But he's back here, and now he is taking over for Coach Waldrop, and so far, smoothest transition you can have. And Coach McGehee is now with us here live at James Clemens High School on the practice field. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me.
It's good. We're trying to reestablish relationships here because we're the local station here, and we really try to put an emphasis, like Scott said, on local sports and high school athletics. And it's good to have you here, and congratulations on the start.
Well, thank you. It was a good start for us. It's always good to get the W when you come out of the gates.
Mm-hmm. Take us through the first game. Obviously, there's a lot to work on, a lot to grow. You can learn about your team in practice. You can learn about them in a jamboree, but you learn the most when the clock actually starts to tick down for real.
Yeah, well, we had a 6-hour drive down to Mobile and a couple stops on the way, and then we got there and had a weather delay for an hour and a half, and I was really that we overcame that adversity, because we could have just succumbed to that and not played well, but we came out, we put points on the board in the first drive, which is always important when you're on the road to get on the board, and especially on the first drive, and but to overcome that and to perform well, and I was really pleased with how we played. Special teams wise was big for us. Yeah. And like you said, Murphy has a lot of tradition, and this is a 7A program, and then we got on the bus and came back, and I got into bed at 6 in the morning. So it was a long day.
It really was, Coach. And it says a lot about your team's mental focus that you start an hour and a half late, and yet you still go on the road and in a place where I'm sure these kids have not played before. I mean, when you're going 6 hours down the road, but to start like that and to finish, you had a substantial halftime lead, but you were able to continue to play at a high level. You had to be very pleased.
Yeah, I think it was big that right before half we managed the clock really well and had a chance to block a punt, and Cam Barnett, who's going to be on here in a minute, senior safety, blocked a punt and scored the touchdown that put us up 25-0 going in the half. And so at that point you can really bleed it out and run the clock and do the things, and I was real pleased with how we ran the football and how we played the run the other night.
Well, Coach, obviously it's great to start the season 1-0. It always looks great on the scoreboard. Let's talk about you for a minute. You're no stranger to North Alabama. As Drew mentioned, you spent some time in Elkmont. When the James Clemens job came open, Wade Waldrop makes that move to Florence. Mm-hmm. What interested you the most about wanting to get back up here to North Alabama?
Well, I was really pleased where I'm at. I've always believed you are where your feet are planted. Yeah. But Mr. Watts and I, before we played in the quarterfinals up here a few years ago, just had a conversation before the game. You never know who you're talking to. This is what I try to tell people. You never know the interactions you have. It was the same way with Coach Niblett at a 7-on-7 years and years ago. Yeah. We just were discussing football and schemes and X's and O's, and I got a call out of the blue. I've been in Georgia for almost 20 years at this point.
Wow.
But Mr. Watts had reached out to me, and so we went through. I said, okay, we'll go through the process, and having been familiar playing James Clement, I knew the style of ball that we could play here. Mm-hmm. So it was I always said if I did it again, it would be the right situation where I knew I could be successful. And this is the place, and I've got 2 boys in the academics here. I got 2 sons that are in middle school and high school. And when you put it all together, the community and the academics and the athletics, it's the whole package.
And talk about what you learned from Josh Niblett. I mean, he's run a program there for such a long time. It's one of those things where I use this mantra: if you build a beast, you got to feed it. So it's very hard to do. But he's very meticulous in his preparation. Always lauded for his fundamentals. What all did you learn as a coach that helped you kind of transition here?
Well, organization, preparation. The coolest thing about Josh is when you've been there at a place for 13 years,
right,
and you've been successful as he has, it's real easy to get comfortable.
Yeah.
And he is never comfortable, and he's always reinventing himself and the program and keeping it new and fresh and always pushing the envelope. So that, to me, is the biggest thing, is that you continually look for ways to do it better.
Yeah. How do you do that for yourself? How do you try to separate yourself from what he's done? Because obviously you want to be your own coach. You want to do things your own way. How do you try to stay fresh and not emulate what he did so that it becomes your own style?
Well, I mean, Josh is Josh, and I'll never be Josh. It's just – but I've also been, at places like Grayson.
Yes, very big football.
Yeah, and nationally ranked program, and Parkview, where, for 12 years they were quarterfinals or deeper in 7A. Jeff Rancourt and the Stinchcomb brothers, and and nationally ranked there, which, so I had, Mickey Kahn at Grayson, who coaches at Clemson now, Cecil Flo. So I've taken a little bit from each stop along the way. I had a stop at North Cobb where our first year there we went to the semifinals and finished third in the state that year. And that was Coach Shane Queen. So I've taken a little bit from each stop, to just be me. Yeah. But I've been able to evaluate what they've done really, really well and try to emulate that here.
Well, and you guys, I saw where you were very successful in the jamboree. Where you guys, we've seen teams around here that have played jamborees and not. You decided to play one against Oxford on the road. How did you see your team improve from there to the Murphy game, and now what are you hopeful for this coming Friday night?
Well, we played a half with our what we call our Navy group, our ones, and then we got to play our JV guys in the second half. So I think it was just good because we have not seen this team compete. This team is Squadron 10. This is the 10th year of this program, and had not seen them compete. So that was good to get that started out. Really, really, the biggest thing that jumps off is how well we've played on special teams for 2 weeks in a row, and I think people neglect that. And we try to work hard at special teams and meeting on special teams as well, and showing film and doing those things so we can win the hidden yardage. So that's been a really bright spot for us, and our kicking game as well, with Aaron Rowe. And for Friday night, it's all about us. And when we talk about it's not about who we play, it's about us being able to line up and make the checks and play within the technique and, execute offensively and not turn the ball over and create turnovers. If we can do that every Friday night, it doesn't matter who we play.
They say the biggest improvement is from game 1 to game 2. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to improve at? Come on, I know you're a coach. I know everything is coach mentality is we've got plenty to improve
Process
on.
oriented.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think, consistency would be the biggest thing, is where I didn't feel real well about the second half coming out. With a lead, I would like to see us push it a little bit more and separate ourselves a little bit further there, but I didn't feel like we, executed like we had. And then, we got a little sloppy on defense and let them sustain a drive or a couple drives in the third quarter where, we've got to get off of the field. So I'm hoping to see that on Friday night where we're more consistent in our execution and it's a little bit cleaner.
Well, and of course your kids and y'all are in the middle of finishing your preparation. Your thoughts on Athens? I know this was a game that James Clemens won impressively last year on the road. I was at that game, but they're coming off of a big comeback, probably the win of the week, 41-40. They're down 40-20 in the fourth quarter against Fort Payne. But what have you seen on film with them, and what are your thoughts on the matchup?
Well, very, very impressive. They've got a couple of guys on offense that can make it happen. And so we've got to slow the quarterback down because he put up big numbers last week in that comeback win. So we've got to control him and his ability to run the ball as well as the running back. So I think if we can do that, because the numbers I think were crazy that he put up.
Right.
And then I told the team, when you get an opportunity, you've got to try to close the door on teams, and obviously Fort Payne didn't do that last week, up 40-20, and let them come back. So they're going to fight and they're going to battle through that adversity if they get down. So, and not saying they will. I think it's going to be a great football game. They're well coached. They do a lot of things offensively, formationally, that you've got to be on point where you get your checks and you've got to line up correctly.
Well, Coach, before we let you get down to practice, James Clemens is going to win Friday night if
we take care of the football and we create turnovers.
Well, and Coach, I've got to ask too, because you're putting your own imprint on this football program, and as we're wrapping it up with you, tell the listeners a little bit about your new staff, because I know there was a staff here for a long time and they did a great job. Now you've brought in some new